Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be trying to memorize trigonometric ratios for standard angles. So this is the table that we have to memorize, and it seems daunting at first, but once you make mind maps out of it, it becomes easier. I've already done the process for you to show what we did to memorize these values. So if I quickly go through it. So what we first did is write down all the values of sine, cos, and tan. So we had sine 0, sine 30, sine 40, sine 60, sine 90, and then you would just do the same process for cos and tan. Once we did that, we found out that there were 14 values altogether. Then this box is basically all the unique values of those 14 values, so the ones that weren't repeated over different values. So we had 0, 1, a half, 1 over under root 2, under root 3 over 2, under root 3, and 1 over under root 3. So then we counted all the number of times there were those values. So there were 3 zeros, 3 ones, 2 halves, 2 1 over root 2, 2 root 3 over 2s, and then 1 root 3 and 1 over root 3. So doing this, we tried to find the relationship between all these values. So that's where we found our 3 root numbers, which were 0, 1, and root 3. And we found out that each of these numbers, so we made little mind maps here, we found out that each of these numbers were the root of all these unique values. So for example, root 3, so we had root 3 by itself, we had a half of root 3, so this number here, and then we had the inverse of root 3, which is 1 over root 3 here. So those were the 3 possible variations of the root 3. Then the same for 1, so we had 1 by itself, we had a half of 1 here, and we had the under root of the half here. And then for 0, there were just 3 of those zeros, so we can just remember that. Once we figured out all the relationships between these root numbers and their different combination and variations, we tried to find similarities between the values in the table. So we found that, for example, sine 45 equals cos 45. We found that the binary for sine 0 and cos 0 and sine 90 and cos 90, they were all binary numbers. So sine 0 was 0, but sine 90 was 1. Cos 0 was 1, and cos 90 was 0. So with that, we can trace it back to our root numbers. So here was 0, and then 1. So those were how we got from our root numbers there. And then we also found out that cos 30 equals sine 60, and we found out that sine 30 equals cos 60. So with this diagram, we then finally figured out that that's all the sine values and all the cos values are just the reverse of each other. So if you know all your sine values, then you reverse that to get your cos values. So here, how we stated over here, so reverse for cos. Because we figured out that cos was just the reverse of sine, that was a big jump, and we could then just fill out 2 rows without even thinking. But we tried to figure out a way to remember 1 row so that we could reverse it. So to remember sine, so that's the row we want to memorize, we found that sine 30 is half of sine 90, so that's half there. So that's half there. And then we figured out that sine 45 is under root of half. And then sine 60 was its own unique value, which was root 3 over 2. And then, so then that's the reverse for cos, so that's fine. And then we had our tan row that we had to figure out, because those were unique values in themselves. Then we found a relationship between the binary numbers, and we found out that tan 0 and tan 45 were binary instead of 0 and 90, so we could remember that. And then tan 60 was double of sine 60, so you can remember that in its row. And then the inverse of tan 60 was tan 30, so this would be 1 over root 3. And then tan 90 is not specified. So now we've got how we can remember all of them. So just to prove that I've memorized these values, I'll quickly write them down. So you have sine, cos, tan. You have 0, 30, 45, 60, and 90. So we know that sine 0 and sine 90 are binary numbers. We have sine 0 is 0 and sine 90 is 1. Then we know that half of sine 90 is sine 30, so we have half here. Then we know that under root of sine 30 is sine 45, so 1 over under root 2. And then we know that sine 60 is its own unique root 3 over 2. Now we can do the inverse for the cos row. So that means that cos 0 is actually sine 90. So you'd go 1, then sine 60 is cos 30. So that'd be root 3 over 2. Then the sine 45 and cos 45 are the same value. Then sine 30 equals cos 60. So that's that. And then its binary partner is there. And then for our tan numbers, so we said that the binaries were in 0 and 45 instead of 0 and 90. So you have your 0 here and you have your 1 here. Then we know that sine 60 doubled is tan 60, so root 3. And then the inverse of tan 60 is tan 30, so 1 over root 3. So that is how I memorized the trigonometric ratios for standard angles. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.